What in heaven's name would you do with a fortune like Henry Flagler's? Well, a new book is out that tells us what happened to his fortune. It's about a widow who inherits millions and then soon dies in a very suspicious manner. A few days ago, I talked to the author. The Binghams of Louisville, and the author is David Leon Chandler. And actually, this is a book about who done it and what happened to the fortune of Henry Flagler. What's the connection between the Flaglers and the Binghams?
When Flagler died in 1913, he left his widow as the richest woman in America. And she was picked up by a fortune hunter from Louisville named Robert Worth Bingham.
Actually, Robert Worth Bingham was her sweetheart from years back.
They had been lovers when they were in college, some 25 or 30 years earlier.
And she, we are referring to?
Oh, Mary Lily Keenan.
Yeah.
Bingham, Flagler. Yeah. And 8 months after she remarried, she was dead, and Bingham inherited a portion of her estate and used the money to buy the Louisville Courier-Journal and ultimately establish a leading communications dynasty and political power in the South.
And funny you mentioned that first Mr. Flagler passes away, and then his third wife, who inherits the fortune, remarries, and months later she too passes away. That's the whodunit part of it.
Yes.
And ever since the early 1900s, people have been trying to figure this out. You'd think they'd have done it by now. It's
still a very lively topic in Louisville. I was there for some book signings earlier this week, and you can get stoned out of town for raising the idea that there was something villainous in the past of the Bingham family.
Well, what was it that was so suspicious about her death?
She died under the care of a dermatologist while allegedly having a heart condition. That was a big question, why she didn't get better medical treatment, since she was certainly able to afford it.
And they were also staying, what, in a mansion in Kentucky, and usually during the summer months, she'd go away to places that were a little cooler, but this was out of the ordinary.
Yeah. The thing was that she, almost immediately after she married this fellow, then went away to Louisville, which was relatively isolated from her social path, which is Palm Beach in New York. And she was kept sequestered for many months and was given morphine injections by this dermatologist that he brought in.
Who was a good friend of her husband.
Who was a very good friend of her husband, and the object of the injection seems to have make her compliant, so that she would change her will to give him some money off the top, the husband.
And 3 times her will was made up, and she did not put her husband.
Did not.
And then shortly before her death.
Shortly before her death, some 6 months after the marriage, she goes into the doctor's office by herself. She's met there by the doctor and Robert Worth Bingham's law partner. They tell the nurses and the receptionist to leave and make out a will, and she signs it. 6 weeks later, she's dead.
Wouldn't that be a rather strange place to decide to change your will?
Well, that was one of the questions we were dealing with, and at the time, 1917, her family, a very prestigious family in North Carolina on their own, apart from the fact that she was Henry Flagler's widow, hired some private detectives and then charged that he had drugged her and murdered her.
So a lot of people are looking into this, and they have been for years and years.
Yeah.
Well, what's the status of this investigation at this point in time?
Well, I think the evidence is conclusive that he did indeed drug her, and that this drugging both ruined her physical condition, and also by withholding medical attention, he killed her.
How old was she at the time?
She was just turned 50, and she was a healthy 50, and with no previous record of heart disease or...
She looked healthy, an attractive woman.
Yeah, she was kind of a Dolly Parton, tiny, buxom, voluptuous lady, and with a lot of vivacity and spirit for life.
And if you want to fill in the blanks, you're just going to have to read the book. And by the way, you can also read Mr. Chandler's work in People magazine. He's their Rocky Mountain correspondent.
He looks like a Rocky Mountain correspondent. Did he ever have any trouble getting, with all the powerful families and all the old money involved, you'd think that somebody would try and stop him from publishing?
Oh, you bet. He said that when he was about to have the book published, there were efforts to try and stop this book from coming out. But as you can see, it is out in hard copy.
It's here.
Yeah.